Well, guys, we got the obligatory haunted house episode here. You know what time it is.
Time to hit that intro.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
All right, everybody, if it's your first time here, welcome. We're two dads who love all things fandom, from Star Wars to Star Trek, Marvel to DC, and Middle-earth on down to Westeros. We love it all, and we want to share all of our love of all things nerdy to you, our viewers. So if that's your cup of brined possum, then we're here for you, and you should definitely subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on all of our amazing reviews and insights that we bring to all of our favorite fandoms. So my name is Chris Matthews. I'm joined, as always, by the buddy and the co-host, Mr. Matt Parham. How you doing today, brother?
Not too bad. It's always a thrilling Wednesday night whenever Willow is in the entertainment selection for this household.
Absolutely. So we watched Chapter 4 of Willow, directed by Debs Patterson, written by Julia Cooperman. And I got to give props to this episode for definitely linking to the movie and bringing back a lot of the elements. But before we get into that, I did look up the Rotten Tomatoes score, guys, and once again, no critic consensus. Let's go over to the IMDb.
They're sitting at 7.1 out of 10. Yeah, 148 user reviews gave it that rating.
So a little bit more than the last episode. Yeah, let's go ahead and find out what these two dads thought of it. So hit it, brother. What'd you think of this episode?
So for me, this was the best of the series so far. I felt like it started off really well. I really liked the plotting. I loved the humor. My whole family was laughing out loud with the pig thing. And we even
I love that we got a reference to the pigs. And then they're eating, they're like, you changed them all back, right? It's like, I think so.
Yeah.
That was great.
Not only does one character spit out the pig that they're currently eating, but then Willow realizes it too and puts the bowl aside.
I'm just gonna put this down real quick.
Yeah. I just love these little moments that are in there like that are just sort of very tongue in cheek, but just lightening up the mood of it all. I think it's been imbalanced in episodes previous, but this one I thought they finally struck a good, back and forth between the more serious material and the humor in it. So what did you think about that? Did they finally get it, or was there still some hit and miss?
Yeah, I feel like they're doing a lot better, and they're finally catching up to their stride for what this show is going to be. And we're getting a little bit more answers. And like I said earlier, I really liked all the callback. Like this castle, this haunted castle there was a good segue into returning to some of the themes that we had from the original movie, which is really cool. We got Elora got to actually see her mother in that one scene, which was really cool. I liked how they played with that, with the time aspect and the memories and everything, and showing them in the castle. That was really cool. And if you notice in that, her mother was like, I can see her, she's older and everything.
Right.
That was really awesome to get to see that. Elora probably most definitely has never seen her mother, so it was the first time she's gotten to see her, and to see her tragically killed too, was really tragic. And to get to kind of see everybody had their little moment in their history as well. Jade, we got to see that her parents were, I guess, murdered. Out of all of them, though, I've liked Borman the most out of the series, but this episode he came off as the most annoying character for me.
And I was going to bring this up later on, but did you feel like there was some deleted scenes or something happened that we just did not see? I thought I went to sleep. But I asked my wife afterwards, I was like, did it make any sense what they just said there? Because it seemed like out of the blue. But, we can get into it further.
I definitely do. And I feel like that is something that we have seen this entire season, is there have probably been major cuts and editing things in there, because the editing is all over the place. Even in this episode, I've said that they're hitting their stride, but at the same time, there are edits here and there that are still like, that's really interesting.
Right.
We get to see the exorcism of Prince Graydon in this, and we get a little bit more backstory with that. And I really wanted to discuss it with you too about this character of Graydon, because he has that flashback, and you see what I guess is his brother, who looks exactly like him, an older brother. So at first I didn't get what that was. I thought that was him, just remembering a flashback of himself, like looking at himself. Mm-hmm. But we come to find out that like it's his older brother, and a flashback right around the end of the episode, we see him as a younger child in a tree. They're both up in a tree. For whatever reason, he decides to pull him down and
goes the good son route.
Him.
Yeah.
I was just like, oh my goodness.
That weird Macaulay Culkin movie.
Yeah. But I really did enjoy it. I enjoyed the lead up to Graydon's exorcism, then compiling all this stuff. And in the end, finally, we get to see Elora starting to build some confidence. I didn't like too much with Kit, her whole thing about keeping the information about the berry bush or whatever they called it to herself this whole time.
We were yelling at the screen like, why don't you just say it? Why don't you just say it?
I know it was stupid, but I think part of that is we've seen throughout this series so far that she's kind of off put by Elora. Kind of she is a little jealous.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. So and it was nice to see that like she is starting to bond with Elora a little bit more now. It seems like that relationship is getting mended as well. But it was really cool to get to see, and I love that we got to see the basically the ending of Willow in this episode, where they're up in the high tower. Don't go up, whatever you do, don't go to the high tower, and that's exactly what they do. Another small complaint there. It's like, of course,
And I couldn't figure out why that exact sequence of events happened, because presumably Willow took off in the middle of the spell. I don't. Where did he go?
Where did he go? Like, so yeah, again, about something that was cut. Like, I think that there must have been a scene in there where we had Graydon knock out Willow or something and hide him real quick, so that when Elora came back, he was like, oh, well, the demon thing went into Willow and he went up to the high tower. And it's like, why are you going to believe this guy that was turning, and Willow's nowhere to be seen? You're just going to take it at face value. Oh, it must have worked. I was out of the room. Good to go. Let's go up to the high tower, the one place that they told me not to go. And I was like, come on. Yeah. But that said, I did very much like that they did end up in the high tower, and that it culminated in a retrospect of what happened in the movie Willow as well up there. And then we find Elora was able to exorcise this thing from Graydon, but at the same time she learns that information about what happened to Graydon and his older brother. And if you notice, his eyes were red as a child in that too. I wasn't clear. I don't know if you know anything about this. I wasn't very clear about what that actually meant. Does it mean that he is inherently evil still? And because she was kind of off put by him afterwards, and she didn't say anything, but she was definitely kind of weary of him.
I think it does. I think that it means that he's part of that bloodline as well. And I think we're not meant to know exactly that yet. I was thinking, maybe the sort of story that Kit saw in the tapestry that went up in flames.
Yeah.
Maybe that's about Graydon and not about her. And she's just
not about her. And
so
you might have a point there too. And I thought that was really cool that we got a little bit of backstory about the lore, about, the Eternal One granting Queen Bevmorda these powers and all this, stuff that they led
I thought
to.
They were one really cool. Same.
Yeah, I thought they were one and the same as well. So we learned that, this dark entity is not Bevmorda. She was just another part of the, the minions of that. Granted all these extra powers, corrupted as well. So yeah, it was cool to get to finally get some bearing in this show about what's going on in the world that we're in. And my theory too is I believe that Graydon is probably in league with a crone or whatnot, and he's the reason why the Gales, those bad creatures from the first episode, were able to cross over into the realm and everything else. And if you notice in that first episode, he's just watching and everything. And I didn't quite get to like all the markings on his chest. Do you know anything about that too? Like he tried to explain like, oh, this was just something from my childhood and everything that they did to me. And I'm like, what?
I want to think that it was a previous exorcism attempt.
Oh,
and
maybe.
So his parents probably knew about this whenever he was younger. Obviously, in the flash to him seeing his father upset and saying that he owed him something, that's setting up why the betrothal was a part of his story. But I really think that, like you're saying, Graydon will ultimately be the betrayer, the Benedict Arnold of the story, because it gets them out of a lot of narrative problems that are being set up here with, the Laura Dannon possibly having this love triangle between him and Eric, and of course him being betrothed, Graydon being betrothed to Kit when she's in love with Jade. With him removed out of all that, it basically clears all that up. We'll see the end of him by the end of this series.
Probably. I really thought right there at the end, I was like, ooh, are we going to get Mad Mardigan? Is this going to be like where he reveals himself to his son and be like, come with me or something? I was like, oh, that would be so cool. But we didn't. Yeah. He just got out there and it was all by his lonesome.
Well, and I actually liked the musical cue this time. And again,
I did too. Yeah.
I've had no problem with the songs themselves. Every single one of them have been a great cover. But I felt like it actually had a place in this episode that wasn't disorienting, with just sort of the slow piano tones coming in there. And this place is a memorial city that he is in. I figure is kind of like the Phantom Zone for Superman. He's removed from the reality that Willow and the rest of them are in. And they are going to have to go through some kind of portal or some kind of spell to get to where he's at. So that's just my prediction.
That could be something.
I think the musical cue kind of set that up a little bit, and that it was different and slow and just kind of interjecting this air of mystery around what he's seeing and why is it all deserted and torn apart and stuff. So
I wonder if too, because they talked about the story with the cuirass and everything. Is that the same kingdom as the story that Borman was talking about?
Yeah, could be. That was another confusing part of this episode for me, though, is that again, there must be a missing scene, but he goes from talking to Jade outside in the rain, and then all of a sudden the two of them are in the same room, and she just sort of says, how did you get through the barrier? She talks about a spiral staircase trying to eat her or something, which we never saw.
We didn't get to see.
Yeah, and then he comes in and he's like, hey, give me this thing. And I don't know what he was talking about.
Oh, so that little device that they showed in that flashback that Borman was talking about with the cuirass that activates it. That's the thing that he found in the tomb, and that's what he thought that Jade or Kit had stolen from him. So he was coming back there to confront them, and he was like, "It means more to me than you know," because his whole journey and his quest.
Right?
Yeah, apparently this castle was playing tricks on all of them. This haunted, mystical castle, abandoned one. Yeah. And so it made him think that it wasn't this is definitely something that we see in The Shining as well. Yeah. So I kind of think that they were trying to homage to something like that with this episode in other haunted house kind of movies and stuff where
that disorientation makes sense now because of that comparison.
And it's like, of all the places that you're going to stay, it's like, why are you guys staying? And I like, once again, Willow makes the weirdest choices. He decides to sit up on the throne there while
I
they're
know.
dealing with Prince Graydon, and it's like, what is he
Well,
doing back there?
and
It's like,
and
are you kidding me?
it took it. I mean, they're sitting there for hours.
Yeah, I know,
And it
right?
takes Alora Dannon
Just
saying, like, look, can't you just try something? Can't something
I
be done?
know.
And then he launches into this story of like,
Mhm.
well, yeah, I guess it can. Let's try.
Yeah.
You know?
I know, right? It's like, he's really got. They really got to hound him to do anything in this series, and then it'll
And
be
you know what
interesting to see. Yeah.
I do think that they solved the mystery of of Willow's apathy for us though in this episode, in that maybe we haven't seen it yet, but we saw it at the end. He's inexplicably held back by these weird statue
little
creatures
statue
out of
thing.
the blue, just
Yeah.
and nobody
It's
else
like,
sees them.
okay. I
And
know.
then whenever the action's done, apparently they just go away and let
They
him
just
loose.
go away. Yeah. I know. You don't see him getting released too. He's just up and he's good to
The
go.
thing's no
So
longer there. It's not a problem.
yeah. So yeah, once again, there's definitely some editing issues with this show, and maybe it's just because they're like, well, these episodes are running too long, and we really do need to cut them down. So maybe it's an executive decision. And I was reading an article talking about the writers of Willow, and a lot of the ones that actually worked on the movie have come back they're in the writing room, and they were talking about how they felt a lot of pressure from Lucasfilm and Disney and everything, and a lot of oversight into what they're doing. So they didn't have as much, of a creative input on this. They couldn't have a writer's room where they just threw out ideas. They had to stick to a certain thing. And I think ultimately that's probably to the what can I say? That's ultimately like to the fault or the detriment, of this show, that the writing room couldn't just run with things and figure things out and make it a better story or a tighter story. So I think that's one of the reasons why I feel like it's not as good as it should be.
Yeah, I agree. And if there's pressure like that in the editing room too, I could see why we're getting such jarring cuts in there.
Mm-hmm.
Again, like I was saying, all throughout Andor and Obi-Wan, if they just let these stories play out with as much time as they need, whether they're short or long, you're not going to have that. And without commercial interruptions or scheduling conflicts, like I don't see what in the world the harm is in having like one episode be 25 minutes and the next episode be 42 minutes. Who's going to complain? Who's going to say, "Oh, I'm done with Disney Plus. Cancel my subscription." They have complete control of this kind of thing. So what's the issue?
Yeah, we're saying this now, but I recall back for episode 1 and 2, I was complaining that these were longer episodes.
Not
because of this thing. So
cut out a bunch of the teen drama that's in there, and give us action scenes that make sense.
True.
I don't know. It's not my show, I guess, so I don't get to be creative director here, but it's frustrating to watch as a fan. Just like, what just happened?
A little bit frustrating. So we're halfway through the series now, and obviously, like we see the Gales at the end of this episode, and they're about to attack. So it's probably going to be a nice little action scene in the next episode and whatnot. But I still can't figure out how this is going to end, like how it's going to conclude for this series or this season, if they decide to make this multiple seasons.
My prediction is we'll have some kind of showdown. Obviously, we'll get to see, maybe interaction with the Crone to some degree. We might have some big battle. And ultimately, I think it'll come down to the conflict between Alora and Kit, and they'll have to come to terms with each other, and then use their combined force to defeat the Crone along with Willow. And there you go. I think
Probably.
we'll get Mad Morgan in there at some point, maybe towards the end, or as a tease for a second series, if the second season, if they're going to go that route. I don't know. What do you think?
I don't know. I really just hope that this is one series and it's just, you know, one and done. But I
Yeah.
don't know here. And I was reading up, like I read up like kind of the synopsis of the books and everything that you mentioned last episode, to try to just get my bearing and everything with these. Were you able to do some research, or were you able to read any of the books
Oh, I
so
haven't read
far?
any of the books since last week, but I read a little bit more into them, and
Okay.
part of me thinks that the books are kind of non-canonical to this, and
They've
part
got
of
to
me,
be because yeah, they Willow. From what my understanding, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but Willow ends up taking a different name too. Like he's called
yeah,
something else, and he ends up taking Alora with him. And then there's like a fake Willow at some point, and so there's this
yeah,
whole story of them together on an adventure like 10 years after with Alora. And in the book, like it, I guess Willow gives some of his power to Alora at some point.
yeah,
Um, and I was wondering, I was like, oh, maybe they'll do something like that with the show, and explains why, Willow can't use all of his magic is because at some point he had to give his magic to Alora, when she was younger or whatnot. It doesn't seem like that from what the story that they've presented so far. But
yeah.
if they wanted to tie the books, but like you said, I don't think that they are following those books at all, or that they are part of the same canonical timeline. It doesn't seem. What do you think?
No, I don't think so at all. I mean, for one thing, they
Hmm.
don't know each other in the show, and this isn't Willow hiding anything from Laura. Like, he talks to the Queen about how he wishes he could have trained her,
Yeah,
and all that kind of stuff. When, yeah, in the books, and I don't know how the books end, if
I don't
there's
either.
some kind of memory charm or something like that at the very end, but I'm suspicious that it's nothing like that,
Yeah,
because, like I said, Willow's having separate conversations about Alora as if he has not been allowed to see her,
at
or
all.
as if
Yeah.
the show demonstrated in a flashback that he took off. He quit on the Queen
Hmm.
and Alora altogether and didn't go back for 16 years here or what.
Yeah. And kind
So
of, I think that the reason why I'm having such a problem with this show is they're treating Willow kind of like they treated Luke Skywalker. He just abandoned everything and gave up.
yeah,
And
yeah.
now, as an older, wiser magician, sorcerer guy, he's just like, "Ugh, I messed up and I made all these mistakes, and I've, got to rectify that." And I was like, oh, man, come on. You know,
Yeah,
if you
yeah,
cared
and
about this character, you wouldn't have given up on her. And even if the Queen told you not to be around, but I don't know.
right.
It just seems like they're retread. Disney is continuing to retread the same type of story and take the characters that we knew and loved from the past and making them kind of pathetic.
Well,
And I don't
they've
like
been
that.
playing that absentee father card since Old Yeller. You
Oh
know,
yeah,
it's just, you're the Disney dad if
true.
you.
Speaking of, like, we do get to see Alora's mom, but where's her dad? Does she have a dad? Is there a dad out there that
I don't
never?
know, and I almost wonder if it's not like an immaculate conception type of thing.
Yeah, it'd be nice to
Um,
know that at some point if that's the
yeah,
case.
maybe Willow's the dad.
Oh yeah, maybe
That's
that
why
would
his
be.
wife's gone.
Yeah,
Figured it
exactly.
out.
And I had another great theory about why the Queen didn't want um, Willow to see Alora anymore, and it had nothing to do with training her. It was that jean jacket that he was
It
wearing.
was definitely the jean
It was
jacket.
like, your poor choices in clothing. We can't have you here, Willow. I'm
Oh
sorry.
yeah.
That and
Well,
the goatee. Get out of here.
it makes sense why those woodcutters were slaughtered, like little
I
side
know.
quest.
Yeah.
Even with the plague ravaging their intellect, they're like, wait a second, we've clearly been told by the Queen in the past, it's been years, but if there's a jean jacket present,
that's the real reason. Yeah, had
Yeah.
had nothing to do with Allura. They would have been totally fine if they weren't wearing full on denim the whole
Like,
time.
just Wrangler dungaree, head to toe denim. What in the world was going on?
Now, I really want to see in one of the next episodes, I want to see like denim overalls, that's the next one. So I'm throwing that out to you, showrunners. Denim overalls.
Yeah, be a perfect sort of mid-episode segue build up to the end where we finally see Willow don the jean jacket again, but this time sleeves ripped off.
Mm-hmm.
The
He
heat of
bedazzles the back.
Yeah.
Bird on the back. Full power. Denim power. So on the denim power note, let's dive into our ratings. So what would you rate this episode, brother?
Yeah. So, like I said, started out strong for me, and I think honestly, I really thought all the actors delivered a pretty good performance overall. Even the ones that I've found annoying in the past, I thought did some pretty good stuff with the dramatic scenes. Gave us a little bit more emphasis on their emotional character development. But still had plenty of humor to fall back on and really ground the show as it is a sort of 80s homage goofy show.
Yeah.
So for all of that, I rated it higher than I have past episodes. But as we've already discussed, there was just some weird out of the clear blue sky plot twists that didn't seem to really have any point of reference at all. So for that, dropped it down to 7 out of 10 for me. What about you?
Nice. Yeah, I definitely enjoyed this one more than the other episodes. I feel like the story is starting to pick up. We're starting to get some information, and I like that Allura is not just dumbfounded about her being, the chosen one in this. Now she's actually gaining some confidence and showing this magic again. So that's great. I love that there's forward motion with that. Again, I liked all the callbacks to the original movie and everything and how they incorporated that into the castle. I thought that was very creative. So good job on that, guys.
Yeah.
Again, with the editing, though, that was still a little choppy. And like we said, there's probably a lot of cut material on the floor for this episode.
Yeah.
But all in all, I did definitely enjoy this. I think I'm going to give it a 7 out of 10 as well for this one.
Okay.
So, all right. So 7 out of 10 from both of us here at Fatherly Fandom. Do you have anything else before we get on out of this dark haunted castle, brother?
No. Check us out. We're going to be reviewing A Christmas Story Christmas.
Yeah, I can't wait for that. So
yeah, I'm pretty excited about it. So after that, more Willow, Bad Batch coming up next year, followed by The Mandalorian. More Christmas movies coming out of us in the weeks ahead as we get closer to the holidays. So stay tuned, folks. Lots more coming at you.
Yeah, stay tuned for all of that, guys. And so thanks for joining us. You can find us on the internet at YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram by simply putting in Fatherly Fandom. And we now have a podcast version of the show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and basically anywhere you can find podcasts out there. So you can simply search for us using Fatherly Fandom. And
we're right there.
Yeah, you can Google us up and you'll see all of our content, a couple of our videos from YouTube. And as always, guys, from our families to yours,
have a good one.
Adios.